So today we are going to see about importance of early years. Today we'll be seeing two topics. Because today is Friday and Saturday, Sunday is you are having holiday. So from Monday onwards, we can this preparing your homeschool also will be doing it, and this prepared environment also will be doing. So three topics will be doing today, so that from Monday onwards we will start with the practical life exercises. On Monday onwards, sit with your journal or any diary or anything. We'll be writing the activities so that we are actually preparing our practicals live. So it will be very easy. We only have to write the journals. The making part, we are not going to do that because while making, it is actually expensive also, and it is also too much work savvy. Lots of things you have to take and sit, and then in home it is not possible. If it is in offline class, yes, all the materials are there. You have a proper table for that, and then a proper system management is there. Then it becomes easy. But Montessori in home, it is not possible. Lots of things are there at home, lots of disturbances also. So you do not have to make any material. Activities like some activities, yes, you can practice at home and then you can make use of it. So coming back to our topic, the importance of early years. So here, the importance of early years means whatever the sensitive period we are talking about, those sensitive periods are important at the early stage. Why is it so? Why is it so? Because at this stage, there is a lot of curiosity in the mind of young child, right? The child needs to know what is happening in his environment. And in Montessori, you have to assume that this is an unlimited opportunity for a child so that the directress can observe, can take an exploration so that the teacher, that is the directress, can understand and help the child to explore and help the child to understand the topic and the concept. Okay, so the curiosity is very much important. Unless and until there is no curiosity in the mind of the child is never going to become independent, right? See, if we are keeping things in front of anyone, if the person do not have any interest in those things, how is the child, how is anyone going to do that activity? Is it possible? No, it is not possible, right? Unless and until the kept thing is that much attractive. And moreover that there should be a curiosity to see that. Okay, you just to see an example about your own self. When you tell your children that today we are going to a zoo, how much a curiosity the child is having in the mind. I'm going to see the lion, elephant, tiger. And suddenly, if the child is too much curious about it, the child is going to see. Okay. But suddenly, if happens, if the child is not able to see any wild animals, what the child wanted to see in the zoo, then what will happen? His curiosity, his moral is going to go down. Why? Because he was too much enthused to see those animals. That was the curiosity in the mind of the child, right? So the environment which he is entering into, the zoo, he is actually pretending that now I am going to meet the lion, now I am going to meet the tiger. No matter if he or she it is in the cage, but I am going to meet, right? But if the child is not able to see anyone, that curiosity level comes down. So in Montessori, what we have to do is we have to generate the curiosity in the mind of the child. If the curiosity is generated, then the activeness is also there to do that activity, and the child develops interest and becomes independent. So this is a proper sequence. Curiosity develops, the child becomes active, develops interest, okay, and at last child becomes independent. These are the four parameters: curiosity, child becomes active, child develops interest, and lastly child becomes independent. So this is the main idea and the funda behind that. A child who is constantly criticized, soon loses his interest in attempting many different things. So the child always needs stimulation and motivation. Okay, so for the sense of security or for the sense of interest, it is very much important to always give a positive motivation or simulation to the child. So Montessori says, never ever criticize any child. A child must never be criticized. Why? Because if the child is criticized, this cycle which I just told you, what is the cycle which I just told you? Curiosity, activeness, interest, and independency. The cycle is going to break, right? The example which I gave you about the zoo. So it is very much important to keep the curiosity of the child intact, and that comes only in the early years. See, here now we are grown-ups. Now we are at least at the fourth stage of the life, right? Probably we are at the fourth stage. Probably somebody may be at the third stage or in the second stage. You may be understanding the first stage is teens, second stage is tweens, then the third stage is 13s, and then fourth stage is after 40, right? So we all are moving towards the fourth stage. The thing curiosity is started decreasing in ourselves, but that is more and more active in the young children in the early years. Do you agree with, right? Is it that? So with the help of that curiosity, it is important to develop the interest in the mind of the child to make the child active and independent. Okay, and if there is criticism, it is not possible. So in Montessori method, when the teacher or the directress, when she becomes an observer, she's just observing and just noting down that whatever the activity Triveni sent that day. So Triveni was observing the child. If the child is not able to pick up whatever the material is there from one bowl to the another, so if the child is not able to do, you are just observing and noting down in your own self. And then again, after 1 or 2 days, you are going to give the same activity to the child. Then the child becomes used to that. Someday before I have did the same activity, again I have to, this time the directress must give a direction to the child and say, last time when you did, these two pebbles or these two materials were coming out. But now it must not come out. Now you are grown up. Now you have learned how to move it from this one ball to the another. This is the motivation given to the child. When the child gets motivated, the child is not criticized. And actively, it does that activity more efficiently the way he has done the last time. Okay, this is done only with the help of curiosity. The child is too much curious to do that activity again, right? So this curiosity should remain intact, and that is very much there in the early years itself. Okay, so as Montessori has shown that the natural desire to learn, work, and the willingness to do it is very much important. The curiosity is nothing but the natural desire of the child to know different things. It may be work-related things, it may be study-related things, it may be learning something. The child doesn't know that this work is hard for me or easy for me. The child doesn't know the meaning what is hard, what is soft. The child doesn't know what the meaning of what is hard, what is easy, right? But the child knows that if the material is there in front of me, I must do something, right? The curiosity, when a small child comes to your house, all the things in your house which is well settled, if there is one child in the house, everything will be scattered, isn't it? You may have noticed. If you all have your younger daughters in your house who are married, and their children, if they are coming, if you are grandparents of anyone, then otherwise you think about your parents. When you go to their house, your children just go and scatter everything at the house. Whatever your parents are saying. See, my house was very much well settled, but now all these children, they are scattering everything here and there. Why? Because the curiosity is there in the mind of the child that in my Nana Nani's house or my Dada Dadi's house, there is something different relevant to their house. There's something different. Whatever is there. We at our house, we are keeping everything at the level Whatever the child wants and whatever is harmful for the child, we are not keeping at the level of the child. But as they are grown-ups, the grandparents, they are grown-ups. They are actually aware that what is going to harm anyone. They are not going to keep that the things upper side, the knives and the scissors. They are not going to keep on the upper side shelf of the cupboard. Why? Because they are actually savvy towards it. They are going to use those things carefully. But when the child comes at home, they have to keep all these sharp equipments towards the side where the child is not able to see that, so that the child is not harmed. Why? Because when the child comes and sees the thing which the child has not seen in his or her home, the child is getting curious about it, right? And the child will go and pick up that material only because that is a new thing for the child, isn't it? So these type of things happen. So in Montessori, we give them a prepared environment. In prepared environment means daily we are keeping a change in the seating arrangement. Daily the tables are shiftables. The materials are at the low level. The shelves are also at the low level, right? So when all these things are there at the lowest level, then what happens? These things actually help the child to pick up and choose the material. And the child is going to choose the material depending on the curiosity. So the very important thing in Montessori is the prepared environment and the curiosity to make the child independent with many different things, right? So this is the very important aspect of the early years of the Montessori system. Now we come about towards the bilingual concept. Here in India, always there is a bilingual concept because in India being a multilingual city, there are too many languages in the country, right? So always while going to the school, the children have to be bilingual. At home, they are speaking another language, and at school, they are speaking another language, right? Probably if they are speaking to Hindi, Marathi, Telugu, Kannada, Bangalore, or any other language. But in school, they are learning English. So they are coming across two languages. Their mind is becoming bilingual. So what happens? One language the child is observing, the another language the child is learning. When the child is learning the topics and the concepts. But the language which the child is observing, the child never think about learning the grammatical concepts and the formulas. See, if you have Kannada, for example, Kannada is your mother tongue. So your child is going to absorb this language. The child will not ask that why is this type of structure of the sentence. Child is going to only repeat whatever you are saying. So that is the absorbent environment of the child, the home environment. Okay, and the child, where the child is introduced to the second language, there the child is learning. And here the child is actually translating his absorbent language into the new language. And the child is having this curiosity in the mind that what is this thing called in another language. And this way, the bilingual concept also works very, very importantly in the Montessori method. Because the child is curious. See, in my language, if glass is called so-and-so thing, so what is this thing called in the language which I'm learning in the school? So that curiosity comes in the mind of the child. You see, even we, when we are talking about other languages, when we talk about in this word is said this in this language, so what is that word called in another language? We are very much curious about it, right? So how cannot be a child be, right? Child will also be very much curious, isn't it? So to understand this curiosity, it is very much important to see that the absorbent environment of the child, when the child is having the absorbent environment, that environment should be properly trained so that the child is able to learn the second language with the absorbent environment, whatever the child is learning the first language. So your language also plays a very important role being bilingual. Okay. So here, this was about the early years. Now, next we come up to our next topic, preparing your home school. Now, this is very much important as this concept which we are learning now. This is how can we prepare our home a Montessori home. Okay, so when we are making our home a Montessori home means we are preparing our home a school. We are making our home a school. What is school? School is an arrangement of an environment where you are providing with some equipments to the child to grasp some knowledge. That means we are making that environment absorbent. When we are at home, we are having plain walls. But when we make our home a school, the walls must be colorful. This is the difference, right? This is the difference means you have to make your home environment an absorbent environment so that the child learns. At your home, if you are drawing pictures, if you are putting charts, that means your home becomes a fully, totally school, right? Your home becomes a full school, isn't it? So that the child, wherever the child is seeing, the child is gaining knowledge from each wall. The child is gaining knowledge from each corner of your home. And that can be possible only when the arrangement of your home is in such a way that the child is able to grasp the knowledge from the every corner of the home. So you have to prepare your home into a school. Understood? So for all these things, what you have to do? You have to do, see, where at home, what you can do, Montessori methods. You can give small work to the child and think about the substitutes of the Montessori equipments. See here, the actual Montessori equipments and substitutes we will use all have control of error. I'll be teaching you what are control of error. Control of error means to correct the own mistake, right? The activity which we have seen in the video in our WhatsApp group. What will be the control of error in that? That means if the balls are falling down, that means it is an error. So we have to control that error. If we are pouring rice from one bowl to the another, then the error will be the rice may spill up on the table. So that is the error. So next time when we are doing that activity, we have to control that error. Okay. So by using the Montessori equipments, the substitute of Montessori equipments at our home, we can enable a Montessori method in our home too. Okay. Like these are very small activities we can give to the children, like peeling of potatoes. This is also a thing which gives a motor skill development to the child. So control of error means not properly peeled the potato. So next time the child is going to peel the potato properly. In winters, we tell them to blanch the peas, right? So this is also an activity for the child. This is also a type of Montessori method where the motor skills are developed. The finger dexterity is going to develop. And this is going to again help them to make a very good handwriting, because if their fingers, that is the motor skills are developed in their fingers, their hands will move in proper curves. See, if they are able to blanch the pea properly, peas, mutter what we call as, so that means they are able to move their fingers properly, right? So while making the curves of the letters like C, D, B, they are going to move their fingers properly, isn't it? So giving them these type of activities means they are developing their motor skills. Okay. Pouring water into the glass from the jug. This is also a Montessori method. Second thing, when the child is small, 2.5 to 3 years, what do when the child is thirsty? What do we do? When the child asks, "Mama, give me water," we just take up a glass, pour it water into it, and then give the water to the child. But when we make our house a Montessori home, what we can do, we can keep a small pitcher pot, a glass over it, and with a tap. And we can just tell the child, if you need, at the level of the child, And just tell the child that if you touch this, the water is going to spill. Child will learn the importance of water. Child is not going to do that. Secondly, the child, whenever the child is thirsty, the child is not dependent on you to give water to the child. The child will simply take up the glass, open the tap, fill up the glass, and then bring the water on his or her own self. This is a Montessori system. The child is independent to drink water. That is the basic need of the child, isn't it? So what we Indians are doing, we Indians are making our child dependent on ourselves. We are not telling them to become independent. Okay. So if there is a basic need, if the child is fulfilling on his or her own self, for other things also the child is going to say that I will do it my own self. Isn't it? This is the thing where the child learns. Initially, the child may tend to do errors and lots of errors, but a time will come, the child is not going to do any error and the child will be totally equipped with whatever activity the child is doing. Only we have to do is, we have to use different substitutes for these Montessori equipments at the home. No need to buy, no need to, when we are talking about making our home as a Montessori home, that doesn't mean that we have to spend lots of money at our home, do the paintings on the walls, and then bring lots of Montessori equipments, those wooden and iron equipments, and then only the child is going to learn. No, we have lots of substitutes. We can use those substitutes from our daily materials, and then we can make them do that activity. Okay. So this was about preparing your home a school. What does this mean? This means that we have to give them the atmosphere. We have to give them the environment so that the child is becoming independent. And you as a mother, you as a teacher, you as a director only have to observe the child and direct the child that how you have to do that. You must not go there and do it for the child. Being a directress of a Montessori system also, you must not go and then do that activity for the child. Many teachers do that in schools also. If the child is not able to write, what the teacher is doing, holding the hand of the child and making the child write. Why? Doesn't you sit in front of the child and just direct? You just do the action and the child will do the action along with you. So that once the child is not able, once if you hold the hand of the child, another time the child is never going to write. The child will say, whenever you will hold my hand, then only I'll be right. The child is now dependent on you. Okay, so that must not be there. Keep in the mind, in Montessori method, you must give them a proper equipment to become independent. Now, very important topic and the concept in Montessori method is to maintain discipline. There is a silence game played always in the Montessori schools. That silence game is the quiet atmosphere, the quiet environment. Just think about a very quiet environment. What does a quiet environment say? A quiet environment means whenever there is no electricity at your house, just think about that. Whenever there is no electricity, and then you are very quiet, the environment and the atmosphere beside you is very much quiet and there is absolute silence, then what all noise you hear? You may hear a noise of birds chirping, the natural environment, the natural sound you can hear if you are quiet. Okay. Second, you may hear the sound of horns of buses moving around. Okay. You may hear the sound of trees moving with the wind, the natural sound. You can hear this type of sound only when you are very much quiet in the environment. Okay, so this type of game is also played in Montessori system of education so that we help the child to make discipline. In this way, the child is doing his activity independently in a disciplined manner. The child is not rushing here and there. When I talk about you have to go and choose the material kept on the shelf. What will happen if there is no discipline? Everybody is going to make a clash all over each other, and all the material is going to fell down and then scatter. But in Montessori system, we are teaching the child quietly. You go towards the shelf, pick up the material, and then keep it on your own shelf. Sit silently, sit quietly without making any noise, and silently do the activity. And then after the activity is done, pick up the material and keep that material silently on the table so that there is no noise of keeping the material too. So when we direct this type of thing to the child, initially the child will face problem, but slowly and gradually the child will learn the discipline. So this is also one of the method to understand. When you're ready to begin your own school at your own house, so in the first day, you have to introduce these things. You have to introduce that nobody is going to give you anything. You have to take it on your own self, but with a silent manner. So we have to play a silence game in the very first 2-3 days in the Montessori classroom. When you open your own school and then you are starting your classes, that time what you have to do? You have to play a silence game for 2-3 days so that the child is not making a chaos when you are giving them a chance to choose the material. Never ever show them the material before. Okay? Then the child is actually, as I told you, the child is very much curious. Child is having lots of curiosity in the mind of the child. Then what will happen? Child is going to go and snatch that material and there will be lots of chaos in the classroom. So never ever introduce the material first to the child. Always make the child disciplined first. In Montessori system, the quietness and the discipline is very much important. If the child learns discipline, then the child will learn the Montessori method very easily because the child knows that I have to do the activity slowly, gradually, quietly, and wait for my turn. All these things comes only when there is discipline. If there is no discipline, the children are going to make a chaos. See, if I keep all the things on the shelf and then I'll just say them that I'm directing them, come on, go and select whatever material you want. See now then what happens. No, I want that material. I want that material. Ma'am, she has taken my material. Ma'am, he has taken my material. Teacher is just going to listen to their doubts and the problems. And then what happened? No activity is going to happen and some material may get spoiled. So first few weeks, it is important to let the child make them play a silence game and teach them the discipline. Teach them to listen to you and make them understand that you are their director. They have to follow the instructions which you are giving and then make a prepared environment. Understood? So this was about how you are going to start your own schooling. What are steps you have to follow? First, you have to follow a silence game. Secondly, you have to give them a choosing environment. You have to make them active, work upon their curiosity, develop interest, make them active, and in turn, they are becoming independent. Try to do the activities on which they are not dependent on anyone. They are doing the activity on their own self. Okay? So this was about the Montessori in the home. Now we will be seeing about the prepared environment for home. What all things you actually require. So in Montessori prepared environment where everything is proportioned about the child's size. What is the height of the child? Okay. Accordingly, you have to keep the shelves in the Montessori room. You need to have a bookcase. The picture books should be there so that the child is having a habit of reading. The tables and chairs should be at such a level so that the child is able to sit properly and do the activity. The wash basins should be in such a way so that the child is able to reach up. The child must understand the importance of dexterity, and the child must do the activity always with the way by wearing an apron, so that the child understand that I must not be careless. Okay, if the child is wearing the apron means whatever the child is doing, if what suppose if the child is doing some paint related activity, the child is not going to spoil his dress. So make a habit that the child wears an apron before doing the activity. So always there must be a step, like in conventional schools, what is the step before the lunch? As soon as the recess bell goes, that all the children make a line and then go for hand wash, come back, sit it on the table, sit on the table, put up the napkin, keep the tiffin, and then open the tiffin and then start having their lunch. This is the method of having the lunch in the conventional schooling. Why? Because we teach them in such a. Similarly, in Montessori school, you must teach them the importance of cleanliness and the importance of being careful at every pace. So you have to give them all these things when they are doing any activity. Okay. They must not feel shy to broom their classroom, to sweep their classroom, so that they understand the meaning of cleanliness. Okay. The tables and the chairs must be lightweight, so that if conditions happen, if the child wants to sit with somebody, the child is able to pick up his chair and then sit along with the friend, whatever the child wants to sit. Okay, the shelf should be low lying. A piece of oilcloth on the tabletop is used to work when if there is anything spilled up on the table, there is no mark on the table. The child is able to clean up in very important ways. There should be low hook for the clothes and the low drawers for clothing and for their different things. Like for example, if the child is coming to the school during rains, the child is going to hang the raincoat. So the hooks to hang the raincoats, it should be at the level of the child, so that there is no one else to keep their material. They can keep their material on their own self. Okay. So everything must be at the level of the child. That must be important when you set up your Montessori classroom. Okay. So here we finish up with the prepared environment. So we have completed 2-3 topics today. Okay. Now tomorrow, Monday, we'll be talking about the activities in the practical life. Okay. So any doubts, any questions related to today's topic?